where this journey came up, part of it is, the funniest part is how we got together. Because I watched you in 1989.
I wish we had pictures of the two of you.
No, I wasn't on stage with them. We're in a different competition. But I watched you compete. I was in Alberta, and I think it was in Calgary, possibly. Or,
it might have been the Western Canadian Championship.
Western Canadian.
So that was Edmonton.
Edmonton. So I watched you because I drove down from Fort McMurray. That's where I was living.
Wow.
Yeah, believe it or not. 40 below zero, 40 above. And so I drove down and I watched you. At the time, I remember watching you saying, "Man, that guy is so good," because you're a middleweight.
Yeah.
And you won the overall.
But remember, the way I operated, I was always on stage as a light heavyweight.
Yeah.
And I had this conversation.
Were you light heavy or middleweight at that stage?
I was a light heavyweight, but I made weight class for the middleweight by carb depleting 3 days.
Yeah.
And then carb loading.
Yeah.
You lose 12 pounds in like 4 or 5 days.
That's what I did. I weighed in 199 and then competed at like 212 up, and then by the end I was 217. I actually watched you on stage, and I remember very distinctly saying, "Man, I want to meet that guy." And because one day I'll meet him. Here it is, 30 years later, my marketing branding company, which is Wow, which I've worked with. Yeah, for 20 years I've worked with him in various companies. He comes up and says, "You got to look at this new product." And he told me all about it, and I'm excited about it. And he says, "It'll be perfect for the garage." And then he goes, and I said, "Well, how did this get?" He goes, "This guy named Franco Cavaleri." And Franco. I'm like, "Franco is a bodybuilder? Franco, were you in Canada?" And I'm like, "Oh my God, you're the guy that I said I was going to meet 30 years ago." And here it is. He came down. We started off. That was part of our journey. It was because it was this serendipitous, to say the least. And what we did with Human Garage is we were building a clinical model, and we were doing in the same way that you're doing with pharmacology. We were bumping heads with other people because we were literally fixing people that couldn't be fixed. And so a lot of other people were getting agitated about it. So we had a lot of flack, a lot of feedback, regulatory authorities coming in, people coming in constantly, which I know you've had a lot of that yourself. And what came out of that though was the most interesting experience is that we'd used it clinically, I'd used it. And for a couple of years. Then I stopped when we shut down the garage because I didn't have my own inventory. I came back into Canada. We started the fascial maneuvers, and then we implemented the power curve when we came back and got together to redo this. And oh my God, it was like 10 times more powerful and more responsive than I remember. And that's with the contrast, using it for years, not having it for 2, and then having it. And that was part of our journey because we tested this out clinically. We had thousands of people that were using it, and we got to see them in real time. So what we saw that they became less reactive in their lives. They had less stress. They felt younger. They were moving more, and it was improving the quality of life. I mean, in your own world, how has this affected you in your own life, like your family? What have you noticed in your own world that?
Well, for me personally, I mean, it changed my life completely. I mean, it allowed me to live a normal life, and yeah.
Yeah, because you had ulcerative colitis.
Yeah.
And how much do you take? Because it says 1 to 2 tabs a day.
Yeah, I for the autoimmune conditions, it probably requires more like 3 to 6 a day, and that's why we're running this COVID trial to get approval for toxicology for that. We know there's no toxicology, but we just have to go through.
We have
to run the proper processes
Yeah.
to gain access to those approval.
So the 12 a day I was doing when I was in the garage, I literally
I've taken between 12 and 20 a day.
Yeah.
So can you
on a
take
regular
2?
basis if I feel the colitis coming on for 2 weeks, and then I'll go back down to 2 to 5 a day.
Yeah. Can you take too much of it?
You can.
Yeah.
I personally, if I speak unprofessionally, I'd say no.
Yeah.
To be cautiously respecting and cautiously respectable about the medical environment, and knowing that there are anomalies out there where people could react adversely with a high dose.
Yeah.
I'd say, you probably shouldn't take more than 4 or 5 capsules a day. But that's because, everybody has a slightly different genetic constitution, and there are things called SNPs,
Yeah.
single nucleotide polymorphisms are called, and that causes a sensitivity in you that you may not have,
Right.
and you'll never know it until you push the envelope one day and say, wow, that really, that was not a good thing to do.
That's literally what I was trying to do.
Yeah.
So are there any contraindications? Anybody who shouldn't be taking this?
The one contraindication that is mandated by Health Canada is that it can increase bleeding time. So if you're on blood thinners, but the reality is you do have to take quite a bit. You have to take between 7 to 12 pills a day to actually affect bleeding time. But you do need to be cautious because again, you've got those individuals that might have an SMP associated with. Yeah.
So we get a lot of questions from our audience. So I'm taking these drugs. I'm on these. Is it safe to take? And generally, what my answer to people is, yeah, it's safe to take. What we're doing is we're helping those drugs work better.
In some cases, but I think the safe way to go from to again respect the medical community and the protocols is to say, look, you have a prescribing doctor.
Yeah.
The only person that knows your condition as
we do that.
as you do is your doctor.
Yeah.
And so, take it to your doctor, ask him if it's going to be okay, because, from a distance we can speculate, but, when you're in the situation, it's better to have the prescribing doctor evaluate that.
We literally do that. I say to people, my general response is here's what we say about it, but here's how I use it, and here's what other people have done. Yeah, because you're right. I don't want to step on anybody's toes, but in my experience, we've used it with almost every autoimmune medication, every pain medication, and we've used it in practice in conjunction with people taking it to their doctors. And we have thousands of cases of people with zero contraindications. So we haven't had one contraindication. We had one person that actually said they had troubles taking curcumin, and the question is, would they have troubles taking this? And in the case, they didn't. So they actually had troubles taking normal curcumin, but they didn't have troubles taking this. Would there be a reason for that?
I don't know that there'd be a reason. I know that there are people that sometimes get a bit of an upset stomach. This is so isolated. We just say, you know what, if you do, take it with food.
I've never had one person say that in a place.
There have been a lot of questions about, can you give it to your dog, for example?
Yeah, we do have a dog version of it.
What do you do?
And it works amazing. It works amazing for skin disease, coat issues, because even histamine response and an allergic reaction is exacerbated by inflammatory activity. You take away the inflammation,
So
you reduce the intensity.
So people that have wildly inflammatory reactions to pollen and stuff like this, that's just helping. It's not getting rid of it. It's just helping by reducing the level.
Taking the edge off.
Okay, so for general use, 1 to 2 a day. If you've got something that's a little bit more extreme inflammatory wise, you take 3 to 6. And for how long? Are we looking 28 days, 90 days? Can you do it?
I would say, do a saturation dose for 3 to 5 days, which would be your higher dose, and then you go back to your 2 capsules for the rest of the month.
Yeah.
And then every month, do a saturation dose for 3 or 4 days.
That's actually
That's a really good
Because
idea.
because this way you're taking the edge off of the inflammation, and then you're
letting your body
you're
habituate.
maintaining it, right? And giving your body the chance to maintain it on its own. Right?
That's actually a really good idea, because what we teach people is that the stress habit cycle of the human body is 28 days. And that's why rehabs are 28 days, is to break the habit. So that makes a lot of sense, because we say that within 3 days, we shift perception, and then the next 25 days that perception is integrated.
You need to maintain it in order to integrate it. Yeah.
So is there so that's for, the saturation if I want to really hit something, but what about performance? If I want to study, or I want to play sports, or I want to run a marathon, is it better to do more before that?
Yeah, I would, often if I'm going into a heavy duty sport or activity that's atypical for me, I'll take 2 before and then 2 right after, and then leave it at that.
Cool.
Yeah, we've definitely
That's good to know.
Yeah. So what does your routine look like for these in a day? Do you take some in the morning and some at night, or?
I usually take 2 to 4 in the morning and another 2 to 4 at night for a little bit. Yeah.
And so our mission, our goal is, when we have technology, which is the fascial maneuver technology, and what it underpins it, we chose not to process patent it or anything. We chose to just give it out to the world. We believe that the world, and we're seeing the results now with tens of thousands of people doing maneuvers and testimonials every day that it's working. What our goal was to, like, in particular, what we use is because all of our education and content is free to everybody. And we have like thousands of doctors, medical doctors, chiropractors, physical therapists that are using it right now. So the way we fund ourselves is actually by using products like this. And we have some other ones coming up with you.
Yes.
And what we do is we have a really good price for this. It's $60 US, but what that does is it allows us, like what we're doing is we're moving into countries like South Africa where the dollar is 12 to 1. And so we're looking, so we have the America that funds it. And then we can actually, because to sell it, basically a bottle of this costs over $700 if we were buying it in South Africa. So we're actually selling it for, like, we're moving to sell it to markets like that for $6 or $7 or $8, which is obviously way below the cost. And so we're using this as a way to saturate, to get it out there, to help people. And you have that's our mission. And you have other products. I mean, we had the next one we had was the keto fuel, which is a ketogenic product.
It's an amazing
It's
product.
awesome.
Yeah, and
If I don't take it one day, I notice the difference. I'm just not my impactful self.
Yeah. What is the biggest thing you notice?
Biggest thing I notice is I literally, I mean, it's kind of odd thing to say, but you feel like you're walking taller and
Yeah.
you're walking stronger.
Yeah.
And you feel like a force. And without it, you feel good, but you just have a next level mentation.
yeah, and so that product originally was brought in for ketogenics because it takes away the keto flu that you get, but it moves past there. It actually puts the body in ketogenesis within 20-30 minutes, right?
Yeah.
Can you
But you see, the difference with that ketone is that we have a patent on this technology where there are regular beta-hydroxybutyrate salts out there, and that's the exogenous ketone. We take butyrate, the short-chain fatty acid, and it's coupled to the BHB. And the reason is that tells your liver, that butyrate tells your liver to make more ketones from your fat while you've taken the supplement. Now, what's the benefit of that? What's training your body to make the ketones for your brain. And your brain can use the ketone to make more ATP than it can with glucose, using less oxygen. So if you're involved in physical activity, you can see what happens. You need less oxygen, heart rate doesn't get taxed, but you make more ATP for the brain.
So
It means
that's why
you're automatically fitter. Just boom, right there.
I gave to Ben Greenfield before our Spartan race, and the first thing he said, which you have the clip of, which is like, that's just like rocket fuel.
You
And
did say
so we're gonna do a full other talk on this, but I want to. There are some products we have coming up. We have the keto fuel. We've got the Glyvia, which is the sugar
which
substitute,
is really good.
which is really good.
It tastes good.
Helps clear blood sugar too, so it helps manage
It
blood
helps
sugar.
manage blood sugar while giving the sweetness, and it works like crazy, and it tastes great. And we've got the chai tea that we'll be coming out with, and then we have the ashwagandha.
Which I love.
The ashwagandha is
I enjoyed that.
again, it's just like taking curcumin compared to this. Your ashwagandha is like a super steroid ashwagandha.
It's like, oh yeah, well, you feel focused. For me, the biggest one is the ketone. The only way I can explain it for the average person, whether you're active or not, you don't have to be active, you don't have to be on a special diet, but it's me, for example, sitting here like this versus on the ketone like this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not aggressive, but it's just your personality.
focused.
You're just like everything at the same time you're aware of.
So
I can see her smiling, I know she's smirking, and I'm not even looking there, but everything is there in front of me.
So we're just teasing people with these products because we're going to be coming out with these, and what we see is the partnership is we have the evidence in the marketplace of the use, and we have an audience that wants to help themselves, wants to share with others, becoming educated, and in the tunes of tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands soon. And so what I like about our relationship is that you're doing science, you're creating products, And you got the biggest testing lab in the world. It's like, because we have people that are willing to voluntarily share their stories and their experiences and share their lab work and stuff like that. So I'm really excited about being able to build this relationship with you. I mean, we've been doing this since like 2017, so that's like 5 years that we've been around this idea. And I said when I listened to you, I said what you're doing is going to change the world, and it literally is, and we feel it today.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we're excited to be working with you and being able to convey our message, our products, and change people's lives in your network. I mean, it's an amazing opportunity. I want you guys to take the time and come down and do this in our lab so that we can show your viewers where the rubber meets the road in our
I love
laboratory
that. We'd
and
love
drug
that.
research.
Absolutely.
Did we run you through the lab last time you were there?
Yeah. I want people to see that stuff because it's like for the rest of the world, it looks like a supplement brand that you just go buy in the store. But there is no buying in the store, and this is patented. You're not getting it from anywhere else. And that's what's cool. And we're going to have this, like we're shipping now to, I don't know, something like 60 countries or something like that. But we're going to actually have distribution in a lot of other countries to really get this out there. Because I have my personal experience, and I believe that right now, because of the world, because of the stress, because of the vaccines and the COVID and all the other stuff, their nervous systems are just overtaxed. And it's causing all these inflammatory responses. And we believe that, doing the fascial maneuvers, which reduces the stress in 15 minutes by 75 to 90%, and then using this on top of it, it puts the body, fascial maneuvers are putting the body back into a healing state, and this is actually doing the healing, or the other way around. This is taking and putting the body in a state where it can, and then we're doing something with the body, moving it, and it's healing. Like, we honestly believe the body was meant to heal itself. And,
For sure.
And that's what we're just doing anyways.
Yeah, exactly. And in this case, the way I see this is that we reach such a state from the standpoint of our nourishment, our food, our environment, and the stress load put upon us to perform and survive, that we are all in a pro-inflammatory state.
Yeah,
Whether
the whole world
we feel
is.
it clinically or not.
Yeah, because people say to me, they say, well, what if I don't have inflammation? I'm like,
Yeah, you have escalated inflammatory
Everybody
activity
does.
beyond, especially now, you get to age 40, that becomes then a dysregulated system. And I view these things as countermeasures to put you back in alignment to how you're supposed to perform.
right, when we're in alignment to performance, then we're moving, and moving is the cure. Yeah, I mean, basically, what we say to people is, movement is the way the body fixes itself, and the most basic movement is breath. And even the constriction of the fascia around the rib cage controls the amount of oxygen that I can bring in. And that's why when we take the Power Kirk, instantaneously we breathe deeper, because it's reducing all the tension around the lungs, the restriction.
Sure. Yeah.
We have more questions?
I think we're
More
good.
questions?
I know, I think, we have a couple of questions.
Yeah.
We can take some questions from the audience.
Yeah, Ikwe, is there anything?
People were asking when it's gonna be ready.
When can they order it?
Yeah, because we're out of stock. So I think, is it this week?
Well, we just did QC on the. It's probably. I've got to check with Vrushali because she's on the QC, but I'm thinking that the next order is ready middle of next week. It's
There you go,
Tuesday
middle
and
of next
Wednesday.
week.
Middle of next week, perfect.
Yeah.
And then we ordered more, so we're not ever out of
So
stock.
we have orders in ahead. Like I'll tell you, like we are constantly running. We have 4 facilities,
Wow.
2 in Canada, 2 in the U.S. that are manufacturing our technologies on a perpetual basis, and one of them has actually put a new, a completely new division in there for us and running our stuff full time.
That's
That's awesome.
awesome.
Yeah, cool.
Any other questions there?
Well, I can't thank you enough because it changed my family's,
Oh, great.
people in my family. It's changed their lives. Like it's
Same.
It's awesome. Yeah,
You're very
so
welcome. And
Yeah,
my parents,
I mean,
are 80 and
Yes.
and 79, and without this they're 190.
My
It
father-
just changes
Yes.
everything.
My father was going through large intestine cancer,
Yes.
colon cancer. Going through colon cancer, went through treatments, and his sight, his movement was going down. He's having night sweats every night, and literally within days, he's up moving, no night sweats. And so in my personal life,
Yeah.
this has made such a difference for my father, who's dealing with cancer. His whole life has just changed. As a matter of fact, he messaged me last night and says, I only have 7 days left. It's like,
Hilarious.
yeah, I only have 7 days left. So in other words, he's like, come on, let's get this
Yeah,
going.
we're the dealers of the 20th century.
Yeah.